We are approaching our first anniversary, and let me tell you, we have already had 2 successful 8 weeks courses, and we are right in the midst of a 4 weeks midwinter course. You'll join Learning and Retirement Institute, which is a dues-paying organization, no tuition dues. You go there for the pleasure of learning and for the pleasure of meeting people who have similar interests.
And when I came to Northern Virginia, I wanted also to have a Learning and Retirement Institute here. The fact that there was a need for a Learning and Retirement Institute was demonstrated by the fact that people sent in their $200 annual membership dues before they even knew what courses we were going to offer. The very first semester, we were able to develop 14 classes, each of which met for 1.5 hours each once a week in the one classroom that George Mason did eventually make available to us. As the interest in these courses and our membership grew, we were able to acquire an additional classroom and increase our offerings from the original 14 to almost 20 the second semester, and increased our members now to almost 150. And we want to grow slowly to maintain the quality of our classes and the accommodation of our members.
Years ago, because it took us at least 3 or 4 years to get going, and I should not even use the word us. It was one woman by the name of Catherine Brooks. Catherine and I and my husband Abe Spiro, and I think one other by that time, Ken Plum, who was a member of the House of Delegates and Catherine Brooks delegate, went to see George Johnson, who was then the president of George Mason University. And by the time we got through with him, he was very enthusiastic. Initially, we were given one room in a building that George Mason had other functions going on, and we had our office and our classes in the same one room. We started out with about 40 or 50, then grew to little, I would say about 150 to 160 when we moved here.
And it was a wonderful time, but it's so old-fashioned. We decided that we needed help bringing computers into the office. That's way back, 1997. And 3 men, Ray Berry, Michael Stiles, and Alan Montesino. They bought the computers, they taught them the computers, they put all the systems they needed to, and that we thought was a big step. Well, compared to what we're doing today, of course, it was child's play. Announced that she started Reston OLLI. Well, the board had to frantically keep up, and we did. We finally got ourselves together and decided, since the planning committee was big worry then as now was parking, that Reston would be able to give us new members and good parking. So we decided to do it, and it's been fine. And the third thing that happened was bringing on TA3. They purchased it for $25,000, and the next day the 2 pieces were put together, and there we were with a new classroom.
And at that time, we were working with a membership of 600 to 700. Courses were continuing to increase every year. We had a great attraction to the community. Folks were coming in mostly by word of mouth, and we were increasing every year. It was a wonderful time. We faced a big challenge in those years, this TA1, TA2, TA3 situation. Then we bought another one. And unfortunately, during my tenure as president, one of my biggest challenges was trying to get all the environmental and other approvals to open that building. And it sat there without any classes, I'm sorry to say, for about a year, until my successor, Ed Mintz, as president, takes all the credit for finally getting classes in it. We were expanding our activity to the Reston operation. That had actually opened a couple of years earlier, so we were trying to recruit more people, and we did, and it became successful.
Several things happened in the course of my period administration. We established the direct link between the then Learning and Retirement Institute and the President's office at George Mason. And it happened, and largely to the help of Palmer McGrew. At any rate, we set up the meetings with Dr. Merton, and then he allowed his chief people, Dr. Stern, the dean, Maury Sherrins, the senior vice president, and Tom Hennessy, the chief of staff. They were designated by Merton to meet with the OLLI representatives, and so I took the executive committee with me, and we began to meet on a semi-annual basis. And through that dialogue, lots of other things happened, including the agreement with the university was established. The university became the custodian of all of our properties. We no longer had to maintain the TA2, TA3, etc.
One issue we got into was working with the Arlington, what now is the Arlington Learning and Retirement Institute. They were just exploring the idea of an OLLI type of organization over there, and so we formed a small group, and we helped them a lot in terms of ideas, what they might try. And also we're very open in terms of we could either be a single organization or else they could go independent. And they had some pretty strong leadership, and so they finally went independent, and we had no problem with that. The big thing was, hey, we'd help them get started. And beyond that, it was just, I think things were happening on the program. Maybe realization, maybe we wanted a full-time person to work on the program, maybe a little different model than we had at that time. I suppose this eventually led to an executive director type of position.
My goal was to position the organization for the transition, which I thought was coming. We had grown from 200 to 500-600, but we saw ourselves as an organization serving the Northern Virginia community, and it would get to the point where someday we'd have 1,000 to 1,200 members, which we are on the threshold of doing. We also had just received the first Osher grant, and part of the task at the time was to use the money effectively. In the beginning, we very consciously used it just for capital items, and it also allowed us to ultimately pursue professional management of the organization by the establishment of the role of the executive director, which today has been under the current stewardship of Tom Clements, has shown that it really works, and we really needed it. Something I'm proud of most, I suppose, is that starting that transition to get to where we are today.
For the 15 months that I was chairman of the board and president of OLLI, was really a significant point in our development. I think we were undergoing growing pains as we changed our governance from just the board of directors to sharing it with a new executive director. We had to learn who was supposed to do what. We resolved it. Primarily, we wound up with a new executive director. But prior to that, under the old one, we had set up the office, which was very important, the way the office is currently being run with 3 people. And also the program committee structure. That was changed. George Mason asked us to open up a branch in Loudoun County. And I had the privilege of going out and addressing various groups to try to gen up a little bit of enthusiasm for this. So it was very exciting. I found it a great privilege and an honor to represent OLLI at this.
We had our second executive director under my tenure with our current executive director, Tom Clement, who has done an outstanding job. I think that has made a difference for OLLI because that gives the members a chance to have someone to do the day-to-day operation while the members can work on programs. We've been fortunate to have great support with George Mason University. They provide the space for us here at a nominal fee each year, and Many of their professors come and teach pro bono. I think this past year we had over 60 different professors from George Mason teaching a variety of different courses. And they enjoy it as much or if not more than we do, because everyone stays awake. They don't have to do any tests, and we don't have to take any tests. So it works out great.